Logopolis, 7 out of 10. The TARDIS needs a bit of TLC, so the Doctor returns to Earth to find and measure a real police box. He hopes to take the measurements to Logopolis, where lives a race of mathematicians who can create matter and keep the universe together through their equations. The Doctor hopes that they can help him repair the dimensions of his ailing ship. Meanwhile, the Master, having escaped Traken, realises that he can sabotage the work of the Logopolians and holds the universe to ransom. Into the mix bumbles Tegan, an Australian would-be air hostess, who walks into the TARDIS en route to Logopolis after the Master kills her aunt. Nyssa is also back, having been transported to Logopolis in the hunt for the Master, who has taken her father's form. And finally, watching over all of this is the Watcher, a strange white figure that is following the Doctor and about to show him that his fourth life is at an end. Tom Baker bows out after unprecedented 7 years as arguably the most popular actor to play the part. Understandably, towards the end, the huge presence of the actor had led to it being almost a one-man show in some ways, and to his own admission in interviews, he had begun to believe his own hype. He was getting much more irascible with people on set and much more difficult to work with for those around him. This does come across in some of the later shows, where the companions and stories seem rather insignificant. It all seems rather too clever for its own good, and lacks some of the simple charm of the earlier show. Whether through the irreverent humour of Douglas Adams, which worked a lot better on the groundbreaking Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or his successor John Nathan Turner's drive to take the series in new directions, these last few seasons didn't have the same exciting feel for me as the peak of Genesis of the Daleks, Terror of the Zygons, or The Deadly Assassin. At this last juncture, the series seems to be slightly uneasy in its transition, and the introduction of a rather overripe version of the Master does little to improve things. From the outset, Ainley plays the character as a pantomime baddie, lacking the menace of Delgado or the more recent portrayal by John Sim. He's not awful by any means, but he doesn't really have the same gravitas to make the character as interesting for me. Whilst it's really sad to see Tom step down, I can see why this was a good time to pass on the torch and inject some renewed energy into the series. His era is easily one of the most exciting of any of the show, and at its best it's difficult to better Baker. But as we step firmly into the 1980s, the show is already changing dramatically, and a new era, for better or for worse, is just around the corner. Goodbye, and a huge thank you to Baker for really solidifying the importance of the series and for taking it in new, brilliant directions that have never been surpassed since. Now, bring on the Davison.